What's up, guys? This is Alex with Unlock Your Wellness. Today's video, I'll be talking about oysters and why they are an excellent food with some serious negatives as well. Let's talk about it. Oysters are bivalve mollusks, meaning that they have a two-part shell. They are nature's water filters. A single oyster can actually filter up to 50 gallons of water per day. That's amazing. The word oyster comes from the old French word oystre and first appeared in English during the 14th century. They've been around for hundreds of millions of years. They don't have a central brain. They have their own unique nervous system, which is a small cluster of nerve ganglia, and they're able to sense their environment and respond to stimuli that way. Very interesting. Oysters have a lot going well for them. They're very high in bioavailable protein. They're extremely rich in vitamins and minerals, like super rich, one of the most rich foods there is. Vitamins A, D, B12, and super powerful minerals like zinc, selenium, iron, copper, and manganese. They have a great balance of omega-3 fatty acids. So if you are looking to balance out your fatty acid ratio, this is actually a great food to do so. They are a highly sustainable food, given that they have very low impact on the environment. And they're also considered a natural aphrodisiac. If you're not familiar with what that means, it means it increases sexual vitality and libido. I actually remember having oysters a few different times, feeling like Superman, like supercharged up, and way higher libido afterwards. So I can attest to this being the case anecdotally. Unfortunately, oysters are not a perfect food. There's a lot that can go wrong with them. First off would be pathogenic bacteria such as Vibrio vulnificus. This is a pathogenic bacteria that can cause very serious infections. And this is kind of what we're talking about when you say, oh, we got a bad oyster. You don't want to get a bad oyster because it will make you very sick. And if you're not going to be cooking the oysters and you're eating them raw or undercooked, you are potentially having a higher risk of getting this pathogen. There's also a risk of accumulating pollution that has been filtered through the oyster. Because the oceans are polluted, the oysters accumulate this pollution because they're just naturally a filter. They accumulate more pollution, more toxins, more microplastics. Microplastics and plastics are becoming a huge problem in our oceans and just in our environment in general. But even worse would be high heavy metal levels: lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, but especially cadmium and mercury. Those ones are extremely high in shellfish and fish and all seafood. And all of these metals are being used in industry. The pollution from these industry practices end up in our oceans, and then the organisms living in the oceans accumulate more of this toxicity. It's really tragic and unfortunate, but it is the reality of today. Oysters are also very high in purines, which is a molecule, a compound that can cause gout flares, so flares of gout symptoms in the joints, in the feet, in the toes. So that would be a food those folks definitely want to avoid. Talking more about heavy metals, especially mercury and cadmium. These two metals are especially high in fish, shellfish, and oysters. Over decades of running hair tissue mineral analysis, practitioners have noticed that folks who eat more of these foods tend to have much higher levels of both of these metals, if not all of the heavy metals combined. And that's very alarming, right? It's so unfortunate that fish are super nutrient dense, one of the most nutritious foods there are, but they come with this extreme negative with the heavy metals and the pollution. Mercury is one of the most poisonous heavy metals. It has an affinity for the brain and the thyroid primarily, but it can really settle anywhere in the body. Common symptoms of mercury toxicity include anxiety, ADHD, OCD, sort of mind racing, anxiety disorder type symptoms, brain fog, chronic fatigue, reduced motivation, poor self-esteem, thyroid problems, multiple chemical sensitivity, and much more. Cadmium, on the other hand, is the most toxic and poisonous heavy metal. It has an affinity for the kidneys and adrenal glands primarily, but again, it can settle anywhere in the body. Common symptoms include all degenerative diseases, mental illnesses, developmental disorders, premature aging, sexual health problems, and many, many others. These are massive problems. There's nothing more poisonous to your body than a heavy metal like cadmium or mercury. So if you suspect that you have metal toxicity, maybe from eating many of these oysters, shellfish, or fish over a long period of time, or maybe you have even other exposures to these metals, you want to consider minimizing your exposure and taking steps and action to help detox these metals because they will cause chronic health issues. So with regards to oysters, we have a lot of good, we have a lot of bad. So what should you do? Should you eat them or not? I would consider oysters to be a health power-up if you're already in good health and you know that the oysters are sourced safely. However, they can be quite risky or off limits in certain situations. Maybe the sourcing is not great. Maybe you are not cooking them. Raw oysters tend to taste really good, but you're always having that risk with the pathogens. In my opinion, if you don't have any serious health issues, or even better, you're healthy and you're taking steps to prevent yourself from accumulating metals, maybe you're doing mineral balancing, which would be amazing, then you're likely going to be very well protected against anything problematic from the oysters. In that case, I would say go for it. If you're wanting to have these, you should definitely do it. Personally, I think of oysters as a special treat. I don't really eat them a ton, maybe once a year, if not twice, and that's like maximum. But I do think that they can be enjoyed on occasion. That is assuming if you're not chronically ill. And if you've had oysters before, you probably notice, like I have, feeling really good. Maybe you want to spice up your sex life, feel really good in that department. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. There's some utility there, but it's probably not a food you want to be eating on a weekly basis. Maybe you've been eating oysters for a long period of time, or other shellfish or fish, and you suspect you might have gotten heavy metal toxicity from those. Please reach out. I'd be happy to run a hair test on you, and we can work on improving your health, getting rid of these heavy metals and other toxins. You have my email there. You have my website. You're welcome to schedule a free consult in the description below. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you got some value from the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.